So in looking at this, the free response questions on the AP Pre-Calc are pretty consistent. So this is FRQ1, which focuses on composition of functions, taking graphs and evaluating the functions from the graph or table, using transformation rules and finding zeros, analyzing end behavior, and then also working with inverse functions. So if we look at this first example, we have a graph that gives us the f function, and we have this equation that gives us the g function. And we start with the composition of functions, which is g of f of x. So if we look at that composition, we're going to start to evaluate h of 9. That means we plug in a 9 for the x. And so if we work on the inside function first, f of 9, we can come back to this graph right here, and we look. An input of 9 gives us an output of 2. So we can replace f of 9 with its value 2. This now allows us to work with the outer function g, which is based on this equation, and we can evaluate g of 2. So one way to do that is to actually type the original function just as it is directly into Desmos. And if I do that, here is my function. I can then evaluate g of 2 directly. And what I see right here is that my answer is negative 1.3. I could have also gotten this by taking my original function 1.9, and everywhere there's an x, I could replace it with the 2. So I could take that cubed minus 4.3 times 2 squared, and then plus 0.7. And in both cases, what you see, you get the same answer. Negative 1.3 is your solution. Next, it asks you, looking at the f function, which is the graph, how many different values of x does f of x equals 0? So if I come up to this equation right here, or this graph, I see that this graph crosses the x-axis here, here, and here. So a total of 3 different times. So that would be your solution. Next, find coordinates of the relative maximum of g. So we're going back to our g function, which is now sketched in Desmos. Our maximum is going to be this point right here, where the highest point. Desmos gives you the extrema, it gives you the max. So we see that the coordinate of the relative maximum here is going to be 0. And 0.7. So it wants the coordinates of that. Then it asks you to evaluate the left behavior, right? The limit of x approaches negative infinity. And so as you are looking at this, as x decreases, it gets closer and closer to, or gets closer and closer to negative infinity. Our graph will continue to move down, and so it's a negative infinity for that solution. The last set of questions has to do with an inverse. So again, it's referring back to the f function. When you look at a graph of a function, in order for a function to have an inverse, it needs to be 1-to-1, meaning that it has to pass the vertical line test, which this one does, and the horizontal line test. This does not pass a horizontal line test. There are multiple inputs that yield the same output. Therefore, the function cannot have an inverse, for the reason of it does have outputs that are not mapped to unique inputs. And so those would be our solutions for this question.